Have any adverse effects actually been caused to people due to the dyes in American food and drinks? As a European, my concern is primarily about the horrifying amount of corn syrup in just about everything. That stuff is so bad for you. And it's well evidenced that it's bad for you, and it's genuinely quite difficult to avoid it from my experiences in the States. The data around the harmful effects of food dye in humans is very weak. There are some people who will swear up and down that food dyes affect their kids' behavior, but actual data doesn't support this. In general, it's like, if you don't want to eat them, then just don't. It's not like they are a necessary food group, but the idea that they need to be banned, or that banning them would lead to some dramatic change in most American children, is just BS. I think whether or not an additive is harmful for you is a secondary question. A more interesting question is, why is it necessary to put dyes into food? They add nothing to the actual nutritional value and in some cases make foods that are not good for you look prettier, which doesn't cause cancer, but isn't really helpful either. Your mistake was listening to Europeans talk about food they don't eat, interact with BQA on a completely different continent and have no knowledge of. I think I might walk around my neighborhood tonight and ask Americans about health quality of Bulgarian food. It's noticeably bad for many. It's still bad, just not noticeably for most others. Americans tend to eat excessive amounts of dyes. It's in everything from children's medicines to crackers to cheese to, of course, so many sweets. My daughter goes into anaphylaxis when she has yellow 5 or 6. She has to carry an EpiPen. She's a teen now, so she is vigilant about reading labels. It was tougher when she was younger. We didn't discover this until she went to school and I got a call saying meet the ambulance at the hospital. It was from a fruit by the foot snack someone gave her at school. After this happened, we had her allergy tested, and that was the only thing that came up. We had never really avoided food dye at home, and she would often get rashes out of the blue. I'm guessing that they were milder reactions to smaller amounts of food dye. I'm not sure it even matters that much whether specific harm can be linked to certain specific commercial chemicals if European food additives are safer. Why wouldn't you want them instead? I wish America had the same high standards. What makes you think they eat the same dyes under different names or different dyes that the US has banned? Hard to track for sure, but Red 3 has been known to cause cancer in lab testing. So why use it? Color doesn't make the food better and might make it dangerous? Seems like a no-brainer. There are 100 documented cases of allergic reactions to certain dyes. Look around. I'm noticing a lot of Americans vs Europeans questions lately. I absolutely noticed a difference in my son depending on what he ate through his mid to late teen years when I had less control over what he ate. Sugar and food dyes. Once I ate an entire giant red vine candy and puked red. It was gruesome. All the evidence that I'm aware of is anecdotal, but I will say it's pretty convincing. My childhood best friend and her younger brother and their mom have severe AD and her brother has OCD. For him especially, red dye is absolutely a trigger and I've seen it in action. It's shocking how fast it affects him and worsens his symptoms and mental state. I feel like for myself and for most people there isn't a noticeable reaction. My kid has pretty intense ADHD and they go bonkers when they have food dye. And the red and orange is the worst. Can confirm that as someone allergic to Red 40, it's in way more stuff than you'd think. I eat random foods that you think would be fine or not red, things that should be naturally red, and then get burning sores in my mouth later from the reaction. Even if you think the amount shouldn't be enough to be harmful, the question of if it's really needed in so much stuff still remains. Why introduce more additives for no reason? Can people really not handle eating food that's not dyed in obnoxiously vivid color? It's weird at the very least, lol, and annoying for people with sensitivities. This kind of thing is about possible effects on large numbers of people. Red 40, for example, has been found in a lab to damage DNA. Too much is certainly toxic. The general assumption behind American chemical standards is that small doses don't have an effect, but many scientists and public health experts think that in many cases the effect continues, proportionately. So a very small amount, like in food, might cause DNA damage that could cause significant cancer in some small number of people. So you would never be able to say, Dad's cancer is due to Red 40. But Red 40 increases Dad's chance of cancer by some amount that may be hard to quantify, and different regulators make different decisions about whether or not that is reason to ban the substance. I can tell by the behavior in my students. All they eat is processed and colored crap, and they cannot control themselves. No. It depends on the person. Some react poorly to petroleum-based dyes whilst others have no reaction at all. Anecdotally, I don't have any real adverse reactions to foods with artificial dyes, but for my daughter it exacerbates her autistic tendencies. Any dyes in her food and she'll show signs of regression. But then, there are loads of autistic individuals for whom artificial dyes don't cause any problems. So it's down to each individual. The issue here in the US is that those dyes are in practically everything. Finding dye-free versions is difficult, and you'll end up paying a premium for items without the dyes that weren't necessary to add in the first place. It's getting better, but slowly,